I'm Anya. I'm a cybersecurity technician at Bob's Business.
Anya, can you tell me what your typical working day is, please?
Yep. So I work in the tech team at Bob's Business, creating phishing simulations that go out to businesses, big and small, globally. We exploit human weakness points using social engineering techniques.
And for you, what is the best part about your job?
The best part of my job is definitely the people that I work with day in, day out, and definitely getting to see the rewards of a click rate when it goes down with a client. That's really rewarding to see. It makes your job worthwhile. It shows that what you're doing actually has a purpose.
So does that mean you've got a bit of a competitive nature? You're always trying to see if you can increase those? Is that the purpose of
Yeah, probably that's my competitive nature coming out of it, but yeah, it's very rewarding.
Lovely. So cyber as a career, was it something you intended on doing when you were young, or if not, what made you come into it?
No, it wasn't something I really even considered until I was, I'd say, early teens, so like 13, 14. A mutual friend of mine at school used to code and he used to mine Bitcoin as a hobby. And I remember I was at his house and he was on his computer and I was looking at his screen and I just remember thinking, wow, that looks so cool. And I guess like kind of from that moment on, it must have lit a spark inside of me in a way, and it made me want to choose cyber as a career in tech. And especially with the world going the way it is, it's going so much technology based, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay, so you had an influential character in your life that made you go into it, but for other people that are going into cybersecurity, what resources do you think they should be looking at now to see if this is a career for them?
My personal favorite ways of resources for cyber is definitely podcasts. There's a lot of good podcasts about blogs or newsletters, a lot of newsletters that you can subscribe to keep you up to date with the industry.
So with podcasts, is it just listening to different people's views? What is it about podcasts in particular that you like?
Because it's not just written in a formal manner. There's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of different opinions on things, and I think that's a very useful thing to have. It's quite diverse industry at times, and I think it's good to have different opinions, and podcasts you get that.
I definitely have been in the industry as long as I have. I think there's definitely split opinions and challenging. And I think that's also what makes it such a good career to go into, because people do perceive things in a very different way. And that challenge is quite a nice part of the job. So I could put you on the spot and ask if there's any particular podcasts, but if you can't think of any that you want to recommend, then we can put them on the link to this.
Yeah, definitely, if we want to put the link.
Perfect. I also know that you're a bit of a reader as well, so we might add to that list a few books as well. So, yeah. What are you reading at the moment?
Information security management principles.
Oh, heavy go. So I guess the next question is, what obviously advice for people going in cyber is do podcasts, but any other routes that you think they could take to look to pursue careers in cybersecurity?
Well, personally, the one that I've gone down is obviously apprenticeships. I just think the way that I learn particularly is a lot more hands-on and being around people that have done, and I think I've gained a lot from being around people with more experience than I have, and I've learned a lot from people like that. But obviously, just being around people with more experience than you, or reaching out to companies or trying to get work experience, or lecturers.
How did your apprenticeship come about? How did that come around?
So I emailed a few IT companies around the town that I lived, and I reached out asking for work experience, and I ended up getting work experience with Bob's Business, who I worked for 5 days. And at the end of my time there, the CEO of that business at the time asked me if I would like an apprenticeship with them, and asked me to have a think about it. So I went away. Obviously, I had my GCSEs and took a few months to decide what route I wanted to go down. I was considering doing A-levels, but instead I decided, yeah, I'll go do an apprenticeship. And here I am.
From your friends that have decided to do A-levels or go on, any regrets for doing it this way, or any recommendations or anything positive that you think that's come out of it that you'd help tell people to make their career choices?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I was really worried about was that leaving school and the social aspect, that all my friends was going to A-level colleges and working with people their age and making friends their age. And I was really worried that I wasn't going to make friends, because I was going to work with a load of adults, and that was something that I was very apprehensive about. But I've felt so welcome, and I've got friends my age, and I've made friends that in the workplace, and it's rewarding. It's good.
One of the things that comes about is that the cybersecurity industry isn't very diverse, and it tends to be full of a load of sort of old white male. But I guess this isn't the experience that you've had.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, my own CEO is a woman, and she's on the company, and I like that. That's very empowering. It's nice to have a female boss. The 2 jobs that I've worked at, I've had both female bosses, so it makes you feel a lot more comfortable. Personally, especially with being very early in my career. I'd definitely say to people, don't be intimidated by, like you say, the stereotype of people that work in cyber, because it's quite far from it, actually. And every single year, the community as a whole is becoming definitely more diverse. So just keep being you.
Because one of the things that you do is you've got an active role as part of the Yorkshire Cybersecurity Cluster. So in there, I should imagine you see lots of characters, and is there what value do you get out of sort of attending those networking groups?
100%. It's opened my eyes to the fact that there's not just, like you say, the stereotype of white men or the nerdy type of guys. There's a lot of women, there's a lot of LGBT, there's a lot of people of colour, and it's a very diverse industry, and it's nice to see that and be able to reach out and get to see other people's views and opinions on things and from different backgrounds, and that's really good to have.
Okay, so you touched on there some sort of various different characters, but have you had any role models in your career that you want to highlight?
Yeah, so role models that I like personally look up to, is one of them is definitely Claudia Brindwoody. She's the vice president of IBM, and she's also a huge advocate for LGBTQ in IBM, and I think that's a really huge thing. She definitely believes that when employees don't have to worry about being safe or struggling to get equality at work, the productivity goes up. And I can definitely vouch for that. And I feel that if you feel safe and welcomed in the community that you're in, whether that be the workplace or wherever you are, school, college, you feel a lot more, be able to do your own thing and feel more confident in what you're doing. And I feel like it's so important for there to be more like women and people of LGBT and people of colour role models in the cyber industry, and there's becoming a lot more. I mean, even the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, he's one of the first openly gay CEOs in the Fortune 500 list, which obviously a huge thing. And I know that he said that when he came out, it was a very painful and uncomfortable for him at times because of comments and remarks from other people, but he felt like it gave him the confidence to be himself and follow the paths that he believes in, which I think is a huge thing. And just to emphasize on the point of keep being you, don't change for anyone. Yeah, and I'd say another role model that I follow is a woman called Marsha. She owns a blog and a website called Coding Blonde. She's a tech influencer, and she empowers women in STEM subjects and careers. She's got an online platform with 70k followers, and she talks about mindfulness, careers, personal growth and equality in the workplace. And I think following her and seeing her on my feed is very good and empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you've been able to identify people. I think that's one of the hardest things is people, the role in itself, cybersecurity can seem kind of a little bit daunting, a little bit confusing. And I think just having personalities that you can relate to and you can understand and actually feel you can have those discussions with. I think one thing that you also do really, really well, Anya, at such a young age is network really, really well. And I won't ever sort of say to anybody, don't, from my point of view, reach out. It's the people that that will make your experiences far better than anything else. So, don't ever be afraid when you get an introduction to somebody to connect with them on LinkedIn and then ask who their connections are and who they'd recommend you speaking to. And I know you've done all that because you're really quite a confident young lady, and you've come across and really seized every opportunity to speak to everybody. So on the final question I have for you is around what do you think is your superpower and personal strength that makes you particularly good in a role in cybersecurity?
I would say that my personal strength is probably being very resilient. I adapt to any situation I'm in, and I can read the room and control my emotions and based on that. And I think I'm a very strong-minded young woman. I don't let other people's opinions make me kind of burrow into a little hole. I'll speak what I think, but at the same time, I think that I can take constructive criticism pretty well. And if someone does give me a different opinion to my own with reasonings, I can actually adapt to that and be like, oh, they've got a really good point. That is something I'm definitely working on, and I found more working in like the actual workplace that people have got different opinions to myself, and obviously that's a really good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think you have lots of superpowers, Anya, and I think it's, you know, for me personally, I think you are an incredible role model and somebody that a lot of people will look up to and really inspire to. So yeah, carry on doing the great work that you're doing, and it's been really lovely talking to you today. So
Thanks, Mel.
yeah.